£150 billion in new investment, the biggest state visit-linked deal in UK history. Tech giants promising supercomputers and data centres, private equity pledging eye-watering sums, and nuclear energy back on the agenda. But is this the bold step toward Britain's economic future, or a political gamble that could cost the country dearly? The stage was set with pomp and pageantry. Donald Trump arrived in Britain for an unprecedented second state visit, a move that broke precedent and turned Windsor into the centre of the world's cameras. The King welcomed him with a carriage procession, a gun salute and the full ceremonial treatment before the political business began at Chequers and number 10 Downing Street. But this visit was not just about royal photo opportunities. Prime Minister Keir Starmer had a clear objective: signal that post-Brexit Britain is still open for business and that the special relationship can deliver concrete economic benefits. Outside the palaces and conference rooms, London and Windsor were not entirely welcoming. Thousands of protesters gathered in Trafalgar Square and along the Mall, carrying banners and chanting against both Trump's politics and Britain's embrace of his administration. In Windsor, activists even projected images of Trump alongside Jeffrey Epstein onto the castle walls, reigniting scandal just as the world's media watched. Police reported multiple arrests. This tense backdrop gave the announcements that followed an even sharper edge, because Starmer needed to prove that this was about more than optics. At the heart of the visit was the government's announcement of more than £150 billion of inward investment commitments from American companies, which ministers described as the largest package ever linked to a state visit. The centrepiece was Blackstone's pledge of £100 billion in long-term investment over the next decade, with a large focus on UK data centre capacity, including its flagship £10 billion hyperscale facility at Blyth. Supporting commitments were wide-ranging. Prologis pledged £3.9 billion, including an expansion of the Cambridge Biomedical Campus and a major freight and logistics hub in Daventry. Palantir announced plans worth up to £1.5 billion, promising around 350 high-skilled jobs and a partnership with Britain's defence innovation programmes. Amentum, a US government contractor, committed £150 million and said it would create more than 3,000 UK jobs, focused in Glasgow, Warrington and the Midlands. Boeing confirmed it will convert 2 US Air Force aircraft at its Birmingham facility, the first time in more than 50 years that USAF aircraft will be built in the UK. And then came the tech announcements that stole the headlines. Microsoft unveiled a £22 billion plan, including the creation of the UK's largest AI supercomputer through its subsidiary Nscale. Google confirmed a £5 billion data centre in Waltham Cross, Hertfordshire. CoreWeave, a rising AI cloud company, committed £1.5 billion to build capacity in the UK, including a flagship facility in Scotland. Scale AI and Salesforce added to the list, with expansions worth hundreds of millions. Together, ministers say these deals will create 7,600 plus jobs across the UK, with clusters from Belfast and Glasgow to the Midlands and the North East. The centrepiece agreement, dubbed the Technology Prosperity Partnership, was signed personally by Trump and Starmer. It lays out plans for closer cooperation on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, nuclear energy and science investment. One of the most eye-catching details was the announcement that NVIDIA will deploy roughly 120,000 of its GPUs in the UK, massively expanding local computing power available to AI researchers, startups and government programmes. For the UK, this is a big step towards securing what Starmer has called sovereign compute capacity. For investors, it's a bet that Britain can become a global hub for AI development, competing with the EU, China and the US itself. But there are challenges. Data centre projects are already putting pressure on the national grid and on local water supplies. Planning approval processes have slowed several hyperscale sites in recent years, and the scale of this investment will require rapid regulatory decisions and infrastructure upgrades. Running in parallel to the tech deal was an announcement on nuclear energy. The UK government signed a pact with X-Energy and Centrica to build up to 12 advanced modular reactors in the northeast of England. The deal includes a pledge to create a joint regulatory recognition system to speed licensing times down to about 2 years, a significant reduction. Ministers framed it as an essential part of powering the data centre boom with reliable, low-carbon electricity. Other consortiums, including Holtec, EDF and Tritax, revealed plans to redevelop the former Cottam coal site into a next-generation SMR-powered data centre campus. Politically, Starmer is betting big on the idea that large-scale foreign investment can help stabilise Britain's economy, boost growth and create skilled jobs outside London. But critics are sceptical. Opposition MPs have asked how much of the £150 billion represents genuinely new money rather than previously announced plans repackaged for a state visit press release. Others have raised concerns about whether data centre jobs, which are often limited after construction, will deliver the promised benefits to local communities. Trade union leaders have also warned that the UK may be giving away too much regulatory flexibility to lure American tech giants. This announcement did not happen in isolation. Britain is competing fiercely with the EU, Middle Eastern investment hubs, and Asian economies for high-tech capital. The United States itself is pouring billions into semiconductor manufacturing and AI infrastructure under the CHIPS Act. Starmer's government believes that the only way to stay competitive is to offer an attractive investment climate and build strong political ties with Washington. But this comes against a backdrop of unresolved trade disputes. Even after the earlier economic prosperity deal, US tariffs remain in place on steel, aluminium and some automotive exports. Some analysts see the investment package as a way of deepening economic ties without the politically sensitive move of negotiating a full UK-US free trade agreement. Public opinion is split. Supporters argue that Britain needs a bold industrial strategy and that welcoming capital from global investors is essential to rebuild productivity. But protesters see the visit as a whitewash of Trump's controversial record. The imagery at Windsor linking Trump to Epstein was a sharp reminder of ongoing scandals. The dismissal of UK Ambassador Peter Mandelson over alleged links to Epstein just days before the visit intensified the sense that the government was trying to contain political damage. For many, the debate is not just about economics, but about values, whether Britain should be deepening ties with an administration that remains polarising both domestically and internationally. Even if the numbers add up, the real question is how much of this investment actually materialises and how soon. Data centre projects can take years to move from announcement to operation, and they depend on planning approval, grid connections, and environmental impact assessments. There is also the question of energy demand. AI supercomputers consume vast amounts of electricity, and nuclear projects take a decade or more to deliver. In the meantime, the grid may face short-term strains, raising the risk of higher energy costs or supply issues. Economists warned that the jobs figure, 7,600, sounds impressive, but may be front-loaded in construction phases, with relatively few permanent roles left once the facilities are operational. Finally, there is the broader strategic question. Does this make the UK more independent or more dependent on US tech firms and capital flows? Critics say Britain could find itself locked into American platforms and standards, reducing its sovereignty in areas like AI safety, data protection, and cloud infrastructure. In the end, the £150 billion headline figure is as much a political statement as an economic one. It signals that Britain wants to be seen as a trusted partner and a major player in the next industrial revolution. But it is also a gamble on the speed of delivery, on public acceptance of large infrastructure builds, and on the political durability of the US-UK relationship. The question for viewers is whether this marks the start of a new era, a modern Marshall Plan for Britain's tech economy, or whether it is another grand promise that risks disappointing once the headlines fade. Let us know where you stand. Is this the bold step Britain needed, or is it Starmer's high-stakes gamble? Subscribe for updates. We'll be tracking which projects break ground first when the AI supercomputer comes online and whether the nuclear fast track actually works.